Welcome to Fiery Discourse, your podcast and media featuring dragonesses, female dinosaurs, and other similar saurians and scalies. I'm your host, Ludmillanon, and with me are my co-hosts, Angron, Mathmachine, The Shark, and Stryker. Today is our 171st episode, and we're discussing the 2019 Arifureta episode, Dragon Slayer, to continue our second ever Isekai Month. So, let's get things started.
Welcome to a fun little series I like to call 3 Edgy 5 Me, the anime.
Cut my life into pieces. This is my last resort. Didn't suffocation, didn't no breathing. Pulling out my gut. Wait.
Arifureta began life as a novel in 2013. It got a light novel adaptation in 2016 and an anime in 2019. The anime is about Hajime, a high school student who gets sent to a fantasy world alongside all of his other classmates and teachers. While the others get all sorts of amazing powers and abilities, Hajime only gets synergy, which allows him to transmute solid objects into this world just from his memory. He has an eye patch and a metal arm, having lost both when he was in the dungeon and managed to replace his eye with a magic stone. And one good thing about that is now SpongeBob can do a really good impression of him. Arg! I am not a pirate!
You know this anime is gonna be a good one when you see the first thing he makes is not a sword, not a spear, not a farming hoe like farming life from another world, a freaking gun. This is the amount of edge we're talking about. And bear in mind, this is an American edge, like something from like a edgy drama or something like that. No, this is Japanese edge. Be warned, it's a lot more hardcore than America ever could be.
So what's your magic power? I have the power of gun. Ah, so you're an American, I see.
Yeah.
So we are getting guns to make the edge go up. Didn't know Shadow the Hedgehog had an anime adaptation.
That too. The episode itself that we're talking about, Dragon Slayer, is the 9th episode, and let's get started. The episode begins with a shot of a mountain before we see a truck driving up it, as Hajime used his powers to create it. Hajime asks if Shimeshu has gone missing, as Aiko says that they have no idea where he might be. Aiko was actually the teacher previously, and she still kind of has that role here, and a pretty interesting twist, not gonna lie. Aiko hopes that he isn't in trouble, as Hajime says that he'll be fine, but Aiko isn't convinced by this. She notes that Hajime managed to survive horrible odds and came back to them, as Hajime then says he won't be sticking around for too long. She rests her head on his shoulders as Yu, Hajime's girlfriend, who is also a vampire that he rescued from the dungeon, notes how nice he is to her. Hajime says that since she did so much for him, he can do the same back to her. Yue huffs at this, saying how she wants to sit in that position on the way back. Shea, a rabbit woman whose village Hajime saved, grabs a hold of him and says that's not fair and she should be with him instead. Hajime then yells at her for interrupting him while he's driving as Aiko continues to sleep. We then cut to the opening of the anime, which, much to my surprise, actually is in English for once. Every single other opening we've done for Isekai Month past and present has been in Japanese, so this kind of came as a nice surprise. The lyrics are all about how nothing will get in the singer's way and nothing is going to stop them now. Obviously, they took the same amount of lyrics from Perfect Strangers here, but sadly, Balky and Cousin Larry are nowhere to be found.
People forget that in Japan, they quite often sing in both English and Japanese. It's very rare to find a full English song from Japan, but it will sometimes happen, particularly in series kind of like JoJo, where they would be referencing actual American songs. But this one is just more unique. Sometimes they just like to sing full English just because it sounds better for the song itself.
The only other song that from Japan that's full English that I can think of is Mayday from Fire Force, to bounce back to the JoJo thing. Those are all mainly used at the credits, not like in openings, but yeah, same deal.
Huh. I did not know that. Really interesting stuff. The opening begins with a shot of Yue looking captured, then a shot of Hajime standing in front of a black background. As he stands up and a forest background appears, a sword and flames flash by, revealing the title. We then get various kanji fly by with shots of Yue and Hajime. We then cut to a shot of Hajime's eyes, then Yue looking pensive in two different panels. After seeing a shot of Shea posing seductively, and the panel closes on her butt, never changed, Japan, cherry blossoms fill the screen. We then get a shot of Tio Klarus, who is actually our dragoness of the episode, in her human form as she overtakes the screen. And looking at her design, this definitely is a harbinger of things to come.
Fortunately.
After the design on her robe becomes a rushing river, it is then replaced by fire as we see a shot of the mountain. Night turns to day as we then cut to the high school, where everybody is transported to the other world, with the school now being a giant castle on a cliff. We cut to Hajime and Yue driving off in a jeep as Tio, in her dragoness form, flies from a volcano in the background. We then see Shea ride on a motorcycle before Tio Klarus flies by yet again. We then see a shot of various other students before Aiko takes over all of them. After shots of other characters from later on in the anime, we then see a shot of Yue and a crystal before another shot of Hajime looking determined. The opening ends with another shot of the title card again, and we then cut to the episode title card, which is probably the most basic, subdued title card of any cartoon I have ever seen. It's just a little black background with the font in Times New Roman saying the episode and a tiny little bit of red adornment at the bottom. It looks like it's a slide from Microsoft PowerPoint, which is really weird.
That red actually is part of Hajime's gun, which is a nice little detail. Each little slide, looks simple on the surface, but deep down, it's actually a part of his main pistol, aptly named Donner.
The episode continues with Aiko waking up as she then steps out of the truck, only to see Hajime and the others standing there. Hajime then mentally creates a group of drones as they fly off, as Aiko asks what they are. Hajime explains that they're called orneries, and how he placed a gravity stone on them to fly, and an injunction stone to think, as well as a peering stone connected directly to his eye. This is so he can see exactly what the drones see, to which I had to point out two things. This is a way better use of the stones than whatever the hell Thanos was going to do with them. And number two, this is also a way better use of drones than using the whirly brains.
I was about to mention as well.
Most, if not all, of Hajime's arsenal is pretty much modern in some way, shape, or form. It's basically just guns, motorbikes, and literal drones. Of course it's modern. No shit this guy is going to be using stuff that isn't straight from fantasy. He's just doing his own thing, as Miles Morales would put it. This guy is on a whole other level.
Yeah, and I will give credit that it's kind of interesting how he kind of tries to translate the whole modern aesthetic to like, oh, it's magic, but it works with, crystals I can see through and all of that.
But it is very, very creative how they do it. It's not just mashing, like for example, a modern day truck into the setting. They actually have a reason for it and a design to where it does not look too out of place, which I like that. I like when they do things like that.
What I really like is that with Hajime, he has one of the most unique anime character silhouettes of all time. You could pick him out from anywhere, but it's not just for, I want this character to look cool. There is actual purpose and substance behind his design, as seen with the eyes.
Yo, I can definitely see that. As we see from his vision, in a really cool touch, it actually has kind of a crystal overlay to it, which is really unique, and they didn't have to do it, but the fact that they did speaks volumes. As he peers through it, we then see a harsh landscape as Yue asks if he found a clue. He says that he sees a broken shield and other gear, as he then says they should check it out. We then cut to them instantly there, as they pull out broken and burnt swords and other armor.
Dang, when you mentioned that they found a clue, I thought you meant they found a blue paw print of a certain dog.
I was gonna mention that.
This show would have been way more improved if it had a handy-dandy notebook and the thinking chair.
Yep.
Yue notes that she sees tracks as we see a set of footprints. A set of relatively smaller, human-sized footprints inside of a truly gigantic dragon's footprint, and they stole this from the greatest anime ever made, Godzilla 1998. As Yue gets in to get a closer look, she notes how they were made by a giant four-legged creature. Yuka, another member of Hajime's party, said that there was a monster lurking around those areas and wonder if it made the crater as Hajime looks up to the mountain. We then cut to still shots of all of them climbing up the mountain before Hajime then stops by a waterfall. He then notices that there's someone nearby, it being either human or human-like. Shea says that if someone is in trouble, they have to save them, as Hajime tells Yue to do her thing. Using her powers, she manages to split the waterfall in half, allowing them access to it. Of course, we do not see the aftermath where she then closes the waterfall and drowns the pharaoh and all his Egyptians, and wait, no, wrong story, never mind.
She also could have used a specialized blue sweet potato ocarina to open the waterfall, but this works just as well.
As we cut to them all walking through the waterfall, Hajime sees a figure lying down. He goes over and flicks the cowering figure in the nose, as it turns out to be a man who leaps up and shouts. He looks like one of those really creepy cherub dolls that suddenly came to life. That's the best way I could describe how this guy looks.
Accurate.
Hajime asks if the man is named Will, as Will says yes. Hajime introduces himself to Will and says that the guild told him to be rescued. We then cut to an exterior shot of the mountain, before we then cut to Will telling the others about the monsters. They wouldn't stop coming, and then the rest of his party was cornered and wiped out by the black dragon, clearly traumatized by all this. Will weeps about how he was spared, saying how he doesn't deserve to live and that the others were slaughtered. He feels guilty to be alive. Hajime grabs a hold of him and starts shaking him, saying how he's right to be glad to be alive thanks to survival instinct. He tells Will to keep on living and fighting for the people who died as Will tearfully nods. And the way Hajime is shaking him, I'm surprised he didn't start saying, "Stop being afraid of clowns! Stop being afraid of clowns, you idiot!"
Nice.
Just be thankful he didn't shake baby Vegeta, because as we know from Nappa, don't shake the baby. Trust me, it'll give him a complex.
We then cut to Hajime telling the others that they found what they came for and to head on back. After we see them walking for a little bit, a loud roar is heard as Hajime senses something. All of them are then knocked to the ground as Will says the black dragon is here. The black dragon strikes at the ground before taking to the sky as we see a shot of her backed up against the moon. This turns out to be none other than Tio Klarus, who, if you know Spanish, he really should be called Tia Klarus. Her design here, she has jet black scales with small red eyes. She's animated in CGI that, for 2019, looks really kind of amateurish. I'm actually surprised it's not terrible. I mean, it's not on the scale of something, for example, like Wyvern or something, but it still doesn't look like it's good CGI. I dare say like Kirby Right Back At You might have had slightly better CGI than her, which really took me by surprise.
Yeah, I really gotta agree. Like, as much the 2D definitely kicks ass, and not every effect and 3D effect is god-awful in this series, for a 2019 anime with an interesting premise and awesome 2D animation, yeah, its 3D really suffers hard. It looks very generic, very amateurish, and I'm sure that's probably the case, so I can't cut him too much flack. I really gotta say that when it's noticeable how the budget was cut in certain places, it's pretty noticeable.
Normally, I would agree that the CGI in this is god awful, and unfortunately, that's because Japan just doesn't do CGI that well. I do make a weird exception here because her actual design is probably the most unique dragon that I've ever seen in an anime. They intentionally over-design it, which I think explains why they need a CGI, because there's no fucking way in hell they could hand draw this every time. So the CG looks jank. Yes, absolutely. It looks like something from the early 2000s, not from 2019. But at least they kept a true to the artistic vision, overly complicated design and made it look interesting and unique. So kudos for that.
In other words, so mature, so edgy.
Yeah, the CGI on her is gonna be quite distracting because it seriously does look janky, it looks off because the CGI here does not mix up with the anime style, and here's kind of the thing, she's not the only CGI thing in the show, because I noticed that they try to mix up things over here and over there, like some weapons, some shields are CG, but it does not mix up. Like, this is not a problem exclusive to her. Every single piece of CGI in this show doesn't really work, honestly.
There are some exceptions to that, but yeah, I do agree that most of the CG here definitely needed some kind of touch-ups, or at least a professional touch from someone who knows how to do CG a little better than this.
With the whole black and red design, wow, even her look is pretty much out of the edge.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
She then opens her mouth and prepares to blast energy at them, but Hajime ends up pulling out a shield from a pocket ring he uses. He and Yuka hide behind while all of the others flee. As Tio Klarus continues to beat down on them, Hajime notes that this is no ordinary monster, as Yue uses her powers to create a portal that hits the dragoness head, forcing her to land. And what's weird about this is this portal basically looks like a black hole. So when I saw it, I originally thought what was going to happen was going to try to suck her into another dimension of that, but it seems to be a solid object, and that is just kind of weird with how it looks. It's hard to explain in audio, but when you see it, you kind of understand.
Yeah, speaking of other budget cut areas, some of the effects can be a little off, even for an anime like this. 2D animation is great. Fluid movements, awesome impact effects, but the CG and some of the attack effects definitely falter where it should really matter. And here is sadly no exception.
We then see a giant crater in the ground as Yue stands over them while the others are all shocked. We then get an eye catch of Will, several of Hajime's items, and another character, done in complete silence, which is kind of weird because most other anime, including the isekai we talked about, the eye catch has always had some kind of little jingle or a little bit of musical accompaniment, but this is just nothing but complete silence, and it's a little unnerving.
Oh, the edge. It's completely silent, my man.
We then see Yue nearly get hit by an energy blast, but she manages to leap away at the last second. Tio Klarus then raises her head and roars, nearly striking Shia with her tail before the rabbit woman yells, "Ha! You missed me!" And no, she does not get pelted by 1,000 snowballs here. What happens instead is that she then leaps down to attack Tio Klarus, but she's then knocked into the water by the dragoness's tail. Hajime then pulls out a pair of dual pistols and just begins blasting at her as she falls over. I think for me, this came as kind of a surprise because I was not excited to see him just pull out weapons and just start blasting her. It actually is unintentionally funny, at least for me.
I'm going to repeat myself here. The main character's magic power is gun.
Seriously, this would be what a gunslinger role would look like in, like an artificer gunslinger role would look like in D&D. The enemy has this all-powerful mighty beast of yore, centuries old and with a taste for blood and destruction. Meanwhile, the fucking gunslinger, eat lead, motherfucker! Yeah, that is absolutely funny.
Tio Klarus then gets up and prepares to blast energy at will. As Hajime tells Yue to protect him, Yue creates a protective wall of crystals as all of the other group of heroes say how they have to help out and try using their weapons, only for Tio Klarus to stop them in mid-air with her roar, which might be some kind of energy power, but the way it's animated, it looks more like her roar is loud enough to where it just stops the weapons in mid-air and they fall down. It's really kind of silly. Hajime then tells Aiko to get the others to safety, as he then tells Yue to also protect them, and he'll take care of the dragon all on his own. As Yuka is surprised at this, saying how they wanted to help, but it turns out they're just slowing him down, Tio Klarus charges up another energy shot. Hajime notes how the dragoness is fixated on Will, saying how it's funny that a monster doesn't want to attack him for once. Hajime then creates another gun and shoots her with it, knocking her out of the sky. The others all scream at this, as Hajime gloats, "Hurts, doesn't it?" As he then runs up and just straight up punches her in the chest, causing her to roar, which really surprises me how this guy can summon any single weapon in the known universe in that, and yet this guy sees a giant dragon and he's like, you know what? I want to take mano a mano.
Yeah, well, the guy has a whole fucking arsenal, and yet he just thinks to himself, you know what? Simple approach, and just punches the shit. Honestly, sometimes the direct approach is the best approach, and here was definitely the direct approach.
He then drops a grenade at her feet, and it explodes as he laughs at her, saying, "Painful, right?" Tio Klarus appears to be made out of iron because she gets up and prepares to attack again. He just shoots her again with his pistols and throws another grenade, with it not affecting her. She seemingly goes down as he then punches her into the sky, causing her to fall down, which really just makes me wonder, how overpowered is this guy anyway?
Well, isekai protagonists, they are always max level.
Allow me to answer your question in the simplest way possible. Yes.
Yeah, this guy, no joke, has been grinding monsters in an entire labyrinth for quite a while now. 2 straight months. At this point, I would not be surprised if he has reached level 100, like max cap at this point. So, like, him punching a dragon in the chest while dual-wielding revolvers, pretty much in character for an isekai protagonist.
Yeah, I definitely can see why, because again, it's something that when you actually watch it, it just seems so out of pocket when that happens. He then creates a device to hold her down, only for her to go and break it, tossing it into the water. Hajime then calls out for Shea, who leaps up out of the water and hits Tio Klarus in the head with a giant hammer. And man, TV Puppet Pals got really weird in its later seasons. I mean, there's no Puppet Pal Clem, there's no Puppet Pal Mitch, there's no bonking stick, it's just all this stuff.
Huh, who needs them when we got Puppet Pal Shea and her magic fucking hammer?
The music in the background throughout all of this is a kind of unfitting instrumental jazz song, which really does not fit the sequence at all, at least for me.
I beg to differ that it's a genre of rock jazz that has been used in stuff like TMNT Shredder's Revenge and Dragon Ball Fighters with a Z for characters like Hit. So honestly, for a character like Hajime, it's more than fitting, personally.
Well, this is supposed to be an anime for the manliest of men. And what is something the men really like? Freeform jazz.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You must acquire a taste for free-to-form jazz.
After Sham manages to knock the dragoness to the ground, she notes how tough Tio Klarus is. Hajime then asks them if any of them has heard the expression, kick the dragon in its scaly ass, which I certainly haven't heard of, but he then says that they have to attack the dragoness where she doesn't have scales, and I want to give a little bit of a content warning from the people who are listening to it, because if you're listening to this and you're at public or whatever, or you're listening to it in public space, maybe put the headphones on from here on in. So you have a warning. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What happens is Hajime says that if you attack one particular spot on a dragon, it will be the weak point, as he, get this, prepares a gigantic metal stake and shoves it up her ass, and we actually see the impact of the stake on her. When I saw this, I actually had to pause the video and make sure it was happening. I actually rewound it and played it just to make sure what I saw actually was happening, because, wow, words actually fail me at this point.
To reiterate, it's Japan, don't question it. Second, I'm sure some dragons, a certain purple one from Ben 10, can relate. And third, up to this point, the voice actor who does Hajime did several other key roles, one of which being Crone from Dr. Stone, a bright-eyed, fascinated, stone-collecting scientist in the making. The other one was Shea Obsidian, an edgy semi-loner / proto-man deal from Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. He is no stranger to edgy shit, and yet, here, I think this is his most pretty much shocking role that he has ever done, and it's freaking jabbing a metal rod right up a dragon's bunghole. Let that sink in.
So, remember before in the Magicians episode how I said that because that was on a respected television network and that was a widely viewed adult drama, people had no reason to judge us anymore? I take that back. You can judge us again. Also, I would like to point out, I believe Hajime's battle strategy at this point is face down, ass up. That's the way I like to kill the dragon.
Wow.
Perfect.
Exactly. Oh dear God.
As soon as the stake makes impact with her, her eyes widen as she screeches in terror and pain. Hajime is shocked as Tio Klarus cries about her rear end hurting and begs for him to take it out. The others are not only shocked that she is speaking, but also that she is a female. Hajime then decides to kick it in deeper as we get a actually kind of funny reaction face from her, which in any other context really would have made me laugh, but here it was just like shocking. This is the most shocking thing to happen to a dragoness and her rear end since the one from the movie Doolittle, and don't worry, we'll do that one day, and when we do that, boy, that's going to be fun. Hajime then asks her if she is one of the Dragonborn, and she admits to it, saying how certain circumstances led her to do such a thing, and that if he takes this object out of her nether regions, she'll tell him everything.
Oh, no, that's not a Dragonborn. A Dragonborn should be one of two things. One, a half dragon, half human hybrid with an anthro body, or it should be B, a Norseman with a Viking helmet and 2 axes, and should have access to a very iconic yell that he learned from a dragon.
Hajime says that he doesn't think so as he kicks it in deeper as she begs for him to pull it out, saying how she's reaching her breaking point and that she's running out of mana, saying that she can't return to her human form like this. Yue approaches her and asks her why she did this, as Tio Klarus says that she'll tell her if she helps, direct quote, remove the sword from my sheath, telling her how much it hurts. Obviously she knows of Long from the game Deepest Sword. Hajime keeps pushing and punching the stake in deeper as she begs and cries for him to stop, as he eventually smirks, and I do like this touch, everybody else is absolutely disgusted with Hajime for doing this. Well, yeah, that was my reaction too, so good on the other characters for knowing a sick guy when they see it. We then cut to her explaining how she was manipulated by a villain to kill Will and his party. We then get a flashback of her flying through the mountains as she explained how she was going to see about rumors of a group of visitors from another world, but she stopped in the mountains in order to rest. As she slept in her dragoness form, a man in dark robes approached her and used mind control to control her and make her attack Will and his party, saying that the man honed his powers for over a day so she couldn't fight it as she slept. Hajime's reaction to this is to basically insult her and call her an idiot. And at this point, if I'm Tio Klarus, I would just eat him right away, you know? It's like, you're in so much pain, you did something that you had no control over, and now you have this guy laughing at you? Will yells at the dragoness that he doesn't believe her, saying how it's too convenient of an excuse. He asks her if she's telling the truth just to save her hide, as Tio Klarus says that she never lies, that the Dragonborn are noble people. Will yells at her again, as Yue says that she's telling the truth, saying how Dragonborn never lie, and that Tio Klarus' eyes are pure. Tio Klarus thanks Yue for being the only one who understands, as Yue says that she is the last vampire, and her kind told her that the Dragonborn are the most noble beings. Tio Klarus says that she had heard vampires were all eradicated, but is shocked to see Yue, and it's at this point I really noticed something. I would much rather watch a show about Yue and Tio Klarus going around righting wrongs and being heroes and friends as compared to this.
Give it time. I understand that this is probably the most egregious thing Hajime will do in this, but given what we know about him and how he ultimately ended up like this, not gonna say I'll defend something like this, but I'm also not gonna say that this is only gonna get worse from here on out. I say as someone who hasn't seen the rest of the series yet.
Will then yells how none of this matters and that she killed all his friends no matter what. Tio Klarus says she doesn't want to start a conflict between their races, but admits that she did take innocent lives, even though she wasn't under control of herself. The dragoness says that she will accept whatever fate comes to her, before saying that she will ask for a postponement for her punishment until she defeats the man who controlled her. Hajime says no, as she's already caused enough trouble, and instantly prepares to just kill her right away. If he was on the Dragoness Scale, he would get a 0 out of 10 from me, just from this alone. Tio Klarus then cries about him being a fool to let the villain get away with it, before Yue manages to stop him, saying how he took a vow not to hurt innocent lives as Hajime thinks of this. Tio Klarus asked for him to, quote, remove the rod while you discuss my fate, as he asks why. She says that if he doesn't pull it out of her, she'll die, and when she turns back into a human, it will kill her. He's just so blasé about this, it makes me wonder, are we sure he wasn't part of the Firefly family from the Rob Zombie movies? Because the others are all horrified at this, as Tio Klarus says, I don't mind this new sensation, but get it out of me, as Hajime then begrudgingly decides to pull it out. After doing so, Tio Klarus screams in pleasure over this, saying how it feels so good, and nearly orgasms, as she then transforms back into her human form.
Without exaggeration, from the moment that he starts pulling on the rod, if you weren't wearing headphones before, for the love of God, start wearing them now, because the voice actress, she puts her all into this role. Like, I've found that this voice actress loves playing this character because it allows her to go outside of her norm and really gets into it. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's pretty rare when a voice actress who dubs an anime character gets to go all out like this. The only other one I can think of is one from Zombieland Saga. But here, like, I think very few things onward or before have topped something as over the top and honestly pretty edgy like this. I know this is an edgy series, but holy crap, anime, let's tone it down a little bit.
She then thanks Hajime for doing this, talking about how it was such a strange but pleasurable experience. Hajime approaches her as she says she belongs to the Klarus clan of the Dragonborn, and her name is Tio Klarus, after pulling out a fan seductively. We then cut to a shot of the mountains, as she tells the others that an army of monsters is marching on the world. Tio Klarus continues to say that the villain has armies of hundreds of thousands, planning on having all of them march on the nearby town. Hajime uses his crystal eye to see that there is an army of at least 60,000 making its way to the town. Aiko says that they can evacuate the area and save as many civilians as possible, as one of the other heroes says that Hajime can help out. However, Hajime refuses to, saying that his job was to rescue Will and nothing else, as Aiko asks if he saw the man in the dark robes. Hajime says no, as Aiko says Could you look closer? And Hajime says no. Obviously, he learned all about this technique from Squidward with the guy with the salt at the Krusty Krab. He then grabs Will and literally begins dragging him on the ground away. He tells all the others to stay there, as Tio Klarus says that the best thing to do would be to warn the town, then begins teasing him for what he did to her. Hajime looks upset, wondering if he should have killed her in the first place, which, wow, he's a real nice guy, this guy.
Well, to be fair, she's acting a lot more lustful now than she was earlier. So also, given the fact that one of the members Shia had an episode where she was a lot more insufferable than she is now, you can't really blame him for being a little more annoyed.
However, we then get a shot of her in front of a colorful background, talking about how turned on she is before she lets out an erotic moan. So apparently she's a masochist, so that I definitely was not expecting from this.
And she's like Markiplier.
The others are all shocked at this as Will collapses to the ground, with Hajime literally dragging her away as she laughs all about these new sensations, which I was not expecting this to be the ending of the episode. The whole thing with this episode was so bizarre, but this ending in particular is just so weird. It's like, it really kind of stumped me. The episode ends with a shot of the others saying they'll come as well over a shot of the mountain. The ending theme of the show begins in the shot of Hajime from behind nude, before showing a shot of Yue also nearly completely naked. We then see shots of the other characters reflected in panels and making all sorts of erotic poses before cutting to the characters in the original world. We then cut to see 2 stars flying in the night sky, and obviously I know who these guys are. Clarence? Yes, boss? Looks like you'll have to go back down. Is George Bailey in trouble? No, you have to destroy whoever made this show.
Those stars could also be Segata Sancho and Chuck Norris still going at it for their death battle. Been several years now, and yet it's still a miracle they're still going.
We then get more shots of all the characters standing, before the ending themes ends with the shot of Hajime and Yue standing by the moon. Then the title card for next week's episode, The Goddess's Sword. And yeah, that's it for this anime. Arifureta got 3 seasons, with the most recent one coming out in 2025, as well as a video game adaptation. As for me, I am probably too stunned by the events of the episode to really give my thoughts on the entire show as a whole. It is well animated, it is well voice acted and paced for what it is, but man, if you had to give me a ranking between 1 out of 10 for this, it would just get a bunch of question marks because I have no idea how I want to feel about this show.
That's mainly because you jumped in straight into episode 9, literally later in the series. Had you started before this episode, took your time to get to know Hajime and the other characters and like gradually progressed and eased into the edge, I think you would have had a better time than you did now. I mean, probably not, but I personally think that you would have somewhat of a better time with this series if you did that.
A bunch of anime, you can kind of jump in and get a taste of what the series is like from just a single episode. With this show, you do need to watch it in order because you're going to get moments like this where the main character is giant asshole, poking giant asshole for no reason.
But there's actually going to lead the question of the week, which is, what is the edgiest thing that you have watched? I'll go first, and my answer is actually going to be a movie that I will be surprised if not more people answer with this because, yeah, they like to go places, and that is going to be the Terrifier series. I've only really seen the first film on its own. I've only seen it through Dead Meat, but regardless, these movies. I'm not opposed to horror movies. I like stuff like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Hellraiser, but those movies have plots. Those movies have characters and themes and actual things happening. The Terrifier movies are, people like to complain of stuff like Saw and Hostel being torture porn. This is real torture porn because it's about this evil clown / mime named Art, who basically all he does is go around and kills and mutilates people in the most horrific, violent way. The second and third movie actually tried giving him more of a plot, such as it was, but first movie, literally, it's nothing. 2 girls accidentally go in an abandoned house on Halloween. Art the clown is there. He brutally murders them in really just the most horrific, sickest ways you can imagine. Like, even for horror movies, these are some nasty, nasty, nasty stuff to the point where it actually is a little uncomfortable to watch. And granted, that might be the intent, but it's the way that they film it that really gets me. That it's almost like it's leering. Like, yes, I do want to see Art the Clown saw a woman in half vertically for 5 minutes straight with him laughing and doing wacky stuff, you know? It's one of those things that I get why it has its fans. I get why it's popular. It is stylistic. It certainly is unique. I have to give him credit for that. But for me, these movies just feel exploitive in a way that movies, again, like previous horror franchises like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Hellraiser, or even the Saw movies, who are as stupid as they are later on, even they, I think, had more of a purpose than these movies. So, yeah, that's probably going to be my pick. It's going to be the Terrifier franchise.
For my pick, it's going to be two things. The first is going to be Netflix's The Punisher, because on top of outlasting literally every other Marvel Netflix show at the time, even Jessica Jones by a surprising margin, it's actually very impactful and paints Frank Castle in a light that's not only human, but also pretty damn entertaining. And if y'all know that meme that came from that show, you know. And it's honestly pretty great. But for the second one, I think it's time we paint a little scene. The Earth, millions of years ago. The last whispers of dinosaurs and Homo epithecus are unfortunately nearing their end as new and evolved humans rise to claim empires. In one particular instant, one of these final cavemen sits on a rock at the river, waiting for his catch of the day. And then, BAM! Sarcosuchus comes out of nowhere and the title card comes in. That's right, we're talking about Primal. Not only are we going to do that on the podcast at some point, but yeah, this is my other pick because you have not seen Tartakovsky Edge till you've seen this show, and it's awesome. Nothing is not taken seriously. Even when it's not, it's still a very emotional, very strong, very edgy moment. Like, seriously. Tribal music with fucking electric guitars and techno music. Like, this guy cooked. This might be one of the best shows that Adult Swim has ever made. Even more so than Venture Bros, dare I say. And I love that series to bits, but this kind of blew it out of the water. And then let sharks rip it in half and multiple pieces afterwards. Like, that is how impressive this show is. I recommend going to see it because, yeah, the second season kind of cuts off a little bit, but where that season left off, the third season makes up for it and does so much to rectify the mistakes of its predecessor, and it is so amazing. The Punisher and Primal, those are my two picks.
Both those shows definitely have a lot of an edge vibe to them, but at the same time, they are really well made. We're going to be talking about Primal sooner than later, so I'll get it for that. But yeah, as a whole, both of those are really great choices. Let's see, Math, what would your pick be?
So while this is the edgiest show I've ever seen, it's not my favorite. My actual favorite is another anime called Bastard, Heavy Metal Fantasy. This is a very old manga. We're talking 1988 is when it first started publication. It's as old as I am, and I'm a dinosaur. Bastard is effectively the heavy metal equivalent of JoJo. JoJo bases all of their things on rock groups. Bastard bases all of their things on heavy metal bands. Hell, one of the first villains in the series is just Ozzy Osbourne. Bastard is one of these kind of shows that it just lives in the edge, and its main character, Dark Schneider, to tell you the kind of show this is, just loves being that edgelord douchebag that is so over the top it actually circles back around into being hilarious, and it's done so straight that it actually makes him endearing. It's one of these kind of shows that you need to see just to bask in the glory of how edgy it is, how great it is, while taking itself straight.
I have never actually heard that show before, but it definitely sounds really fascinating.
Me neither.
Shark, what would your pick be?
Mine will be a certain show that has been quite popular lately, and yeah, I can see why, because, well, it basically has Superman crushing Flash's head very slowly and very detailed. Or some counterparts. I'm talking about Invincible. Yep, so yeah, everybody pretty much knows, especially because of, Omni-Man became a huge meme and all of that, but anyone who entered that show because of the memes probably gonna expect to be, oh, it's just another superhero show that yeah, they're gonna beat each other and they're going to bleed every now and then because it's an adult superhero show, and it's like, yes, they're going to bleed, but boy, are they going to go into detail of how these characters fight, let's just say. It's kind of funny because the very first episode kind of starts with your typical superhero story with, Mark discovering that, oh, I got my powers, now I can help my father, and we all live in this superhero world where, heroes, villain, and all of that. Then you get to the final scene of that episode where Omni-Man has to kill basically the equivalent of the Justice League of that world, and like I said, he starts by crushing the Flash equivalent's head very slowly, very detailed. His teeth start falling off, one of his eyes pop out of his head, and then it gets worse from there, let's just say. Yeah, sure, it's edgy, but the first season has the whole mystery of who really killed the heroes, who really did it. And, as an audience member, you already know it was Omni-Man, but still, the whole plot is interesting. And, season 2 and season 3, it keep going. The show is keep going. Season 4 is already over, but it's gonna continue. And yeah, honestly, even if it's true, the animation has taken some hits and all of that, it's still interesting. And yeah, that's pretty much gonna be my answer, because it's a superhero show that really shows how violent it will really be, how a realistic superhero will really be, let's just bleeding and killing all over the place.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, that is a great choice right there. Because again, that's a show that really is way more successful than I think people would have even expected it to be. And it's just amazing how well it's held up and how long it's gone on. So that's a great choice right there. Let's see, Stryker, what would your pick be?
My pick is something a little different than what you guys have chosen. I'm allowed to pick a video game, alright? Am I? My pick goes a little something like, where's that damn fourth Chaos Emerald? Damn, not here! Yeah, my pick is Shadow the Hedgehog. I loved playing this game when I was a kid, but when I went back to it as an adult, I realized the game was actually not very good. I mean, the story is great and all, and the idea about going back and playing a different ending, that's actually pretty cool. On paper. Because when you actually play the game, you find out it's actually way buggier than you remember. It's a cool concept. In fact, I'm not sure how well it would have done as a T-rated game, though.
So, the problem is, when you want to do another ending, you can just restart from any point of the story. Like, oh, I did a good mission here, let me do the evil mission. Then, nope, you have to start from the very beginning from the game. And I am not kidding. To get every single possible combination in the story, you have to play it over 300 times.
Unfortunately, yeah, you have to play each ending twice so you can get the second ending. And no, you don't just play it once and you go like, oh, you have to play the morality path. No, you have to take that morality twice.
Yeah, that could definitely seem like it's really tedious.
It can get tedious, but honestly, the story is a lot better than I remember now as an adult. It's just the game was not put together very well. It feels like it was rushed out the door to meet a deadline.
Something I find funny about, because they really try to play Shadow like the edgiest person in the entire history of gaming, because I love it. There's a cutscene in which Shadow says, this is like stealing candy from a baby, which is fine by me. That's great, but the best part is that Shadow will only say this line if you're playing the pure hero path.
Wow.
That's very strange, not gonna lie.
That's Shadow for you.
Also, lest we forget, this game literally is the poster boy for the Ow the Edge meme.
He is, actually.
Yeah.
And also, he got another meme called Edgy the Hedgy. But yeah, that's my pick.
That's a great pick right there, because again, it's probably one of the most
The
iconic
hedgehog.
things you think of when you hear the word edge. So, yep, that's another great choice. Now it is time for the patent-pending Dragoness Scale, where we are going to rank Tio Klarus. I will go first, and this is going to be an interesting one. Not only because of what happens to her, but also with the CGI is really a little bit of off-putting. I feel like if they tinkered with it a little bit more, you could have had a better go at it, but with that being said, I do like the design, the voice is great, and the characterization, such as it is kind of unique for a Dragoness. I certainly can't say I haven't seen anything like that before, so I am actually going to give her a 7 out of 10, believe it or not, because, yeah, the CGI is really not great. I mean, really not great, but with that being said, there is enough with her to where I can't give her a very low score.
I, on the other hand, am going to give her a 6 out of 10. Don't get me wrong, she's not a bad character, and in her dragon form she looks pretty powerful, but sadly going to have to say that compared to something like Tsukimichi, where the dragon was more honorable, more dignified, and just overall better as far as dragons in an isekai go, the whole horny angle, it's not bad. It's definitely been done before, both in a parody sense and I'm sure in an actual real life sense. Half Dragon proves that thing. I'm sorry. After a while, I haven't seen the rest of the series. I've only seen up to this point. I genuinely hope Tio only gets better from there, because this whole sodomistic vantage point of hers is that moment aside, which was that quite a shock to the system. There's not too much to say. As a dragon and a person, she is just pretty basic. Not enough to give her anything lower than a 5, but I personally think that I'm just going to give her a 6.
Okay, I can definitely see why. Let's see, Math, what would you give her?
Mine's going to be a shock score because I've seen the whole series so far. I really like her character. First off, I'm actually weirdly forgiving of the CG in this for the dragon because it is such a unique design. It's so overly detailed and hilariously fits in with the 3HE5Me style of the anime so well. It perfectly encapsulates that overly designed to the point of stupidity that this franchise loves to do. And it works in its own weird way. So actually it being really jank CGI isn't a problem for me, as much as it normally would be. Her character is hilarious. The voice actress normally voices mother figures in other anime, so she got to go all out for this series, and she, I can tell, is having the time of her life. Every time she gets to just really lean into how masochistic Tio is, or give those like haughty, perverted laughs, you can tell that she is just having a ball with this character, and that really helps you feel like this is such an enjoyable character to watch because it's so entertaining watching her just be so stupid. So all things considered, because I've seen the whole thing, and she's actually, even beyond this, she is the wisdom center of the show. Like anytime there's anything that they need to know or need to be informed on, she's usually the one that is able to help them all with that. So because of how good she is as both a character and just in lore, I'm going with a 10.
Dang.
Wow.
Serious?
I was not expecting it, but hey, I can definitely see why, because again, she certainly is a unique character if nothing else. So
Yeah. You know what? I think I'm going to change mine to 7 on that merit alone. It's definitely reassuring to hear that a character only gets better, especially in the case of characters like Shia, whose first impression was not great, to say the least. But she definitely got better, and if Tio can do the same, then yeah, I'll give her a 7 out of 10 out of that merit.
I can definitely see why. Let's see, Shark, what would you give her?
Well, unlike Matt, I do not have her full context of this character. I only know her for this episode only. And let me tell you, this episode might be the best example of how not to introduce one of your main characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she does not get a lot of justice here, let's just say. Like, okay, well, first thing here is the CGI. For me, it does not work. It looks awkward. It looks janky. There's a lot of inconsistencies with animation as well. Like, when she talks, sometimes she doesn't even open her mouth. Sometimes she actually opens her mouth, and sometimes she talks normally. So it's like, okay, choose one, guys, because honestly, it's just distracting. It's just all that, and you know, we have to talk about what happens to her. That infamous moment where. Yeah, not the best first impression to introduce the fact that your character can actually talk, honestly. And even they try to make her deep, like they try to explain her backstory, the whole Dragonborns never lie or hurt people. But I can't really take it seriously when the character has literally take up their ass. So yeah, that didn't do much for me, honestly. And yeah, it's like they really dragging on that whole joke, like it would have worked. It would have been funny. It was something quick, like, it happens off screen, or then they have the conversation and like they forget what's actually happening until the very end, where she says something like, "Oh, by the way, could you just remove this and all of that?" But yeah, it's like really awkward. You really can't think of anything else. Can't take the scene seriously, and yeah, that this character is. I will say it every moment this happened and she was on screen was an uncomfortable experience, honestly. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to give her a 3 out of 10.
Wow. Don't know if the 10 or the 3 is more surprising, although I can definitely understand why you'd give her the 3, because again, yeah, the events of this episode definitely shocked me as well. Let's do it that way. Let's see, Stryker, what would you give her?
To be honest, I think I'd have to watch more of the series because I'm just gonna go with the middle ground and say I'm going with a 7. Because from the way everyone's talking about her, and I can't help but find her introduction hilarious. I have seen way worse in anime, but this takes the cake as like, that's the thing, Well, that's the thing. And I can't help but react like Usopp did in that One Piece episode.
Yeah, I can definitely see why. So, yeah, this was for the first time in a while. We've had varying reactions to the character of the episode, which, after seeing what this episode was about, it's very easy to see why. But that's going to be it for this week. If you have any questions, or if you want to tell us how traumatized you were by the events of this episode,
Oh my gosh.
you can feel free to email us at fierydiscourse@outlook.com. Visit us at Twitter at twitter.com/fierydiscourse. Visit us at Blue Sky at Blue Sky Fiery Discourse. Be sure to subscribe to the Fiery Discourse YouTube channel and subscribe to the playlist. Like and hit the bell icon. Leave a comment. Any all comments are appreciated. Next week, we're going to be talking about the 2018 Overlord episode, Departure, to continue our second ever Isekai Month. And whatever happens in it, just know it will probably be a very nice palate cleanser after this week's episode. Thank you all so much for listening, and until then, take care, and see you next week.
Later, y'all.
Peace out.
Adios. See you all next week.